So this is not becoming a movie review channel per se, but I really wanted to talk about The Iron Lung. I just got home from the theater about an hour or so ago, so these are pretty fresh thoughts. They could change, but I wanted to talk about this movie because I don't even know what I just watched. So here's your quick spoiler-free review. I can't say much. It was good. I had no problem with the pacing or atmosphere or anything like that. Definitely worth a watch at least once, especially once it comes to streaming. I don't know about those theater prices. We got pretty lucky. Our local theater does a deal on Tuesdays. I'm also very confused on the ending, but I am interested in seeing more. Is that good enough for you? I mean, we're going to go through the story next, so that's about as much as I can give you without diving in because there's a lot here. So let's just get to it. So this is my quick synopsis that I typed out. It doesn't go over exactly everything, but it gets you the general points. So an Eden soldier named Simon volunteers for a mission in exchange for his freedom. He's submerged in a welded together ship called the Iron Lung, just like the title of the movie. Anyway, he's submerged in the Iron Lung in the deep blood ocean of some planet that they want him to explore. He moves around using like a photo system to see around the ship, as well as some very basic controls. He locates bones and eventually pulled up because of that, but in the process he sees something out in the water staring at him in that photo before he's pulled up. He's confronted about what he found and all that, and he tries to get some more answers from the people working around him, but in the process gets angry and accidentally radiates them with the photo sort of machine or camera, if you will. Turns out it's an X-ray, or uses X-rays to make the photos. So he accidentally radiates them, and they end up sending him back down to get a sample from the bones he found. Which, my theory, now that I've had some time to think about it, I don't think they were bones. At least not like just fossils. He rams into the bones and gets the sample, supposedly, but as he pulls up, the creature that he saw before kind of lurking in the shadows behind the bones or around the bones grabs his ship, it seems like. It was kind of left somewhat ambiguous, but that seems to be what happens. And then it falls into like a cave or a deep chasm. However that happens, it gets lodged way deep in there. My guess is the creature took him down there, but I don't know for sure. He maneuvers through it and eventually finds another ship, a crashed ship, which part of the big reveal is he was supposed to be the only ship, or the first ship to go down there. Turns out not the case. He finds the SM-8 and his computer automatically connects to it, but he doesn't have the admin password to actually do anything with it. His computer also isn't supposed to be on, but he ends up turning it on earlier on in the movie. He hears a voice which he thinks is helping him, leading him to something, but it leads him to the light, whatever the light is. It's, religious sort of thing. They ask him if he believes in God. There's a religious connotation there, which, whatever. But it causes him to hallucinate. It turns out the voice wasn't real, I think. But after he goes through pretty much a psychedelic trip where he wakes up in a thing of blood and all sorts of stuff, I don't even know how to really describe it all. He recovers and hears Ava, which Ava is a girl who's talking to him throughout most of the movie. Kind of just his background, giving him direction, giving him sort of somebody to kind of go back and forth with on, lore and stuff like that. They eventually, reveal it's been days since they last heard from him, since, he crashed down into that cave and stuff, which he had to maneuver around to get a signal. They agree that he'll grab the black box data from the SMA once he says, he's found it, he knows he's not the first ship, and that's going to be the new thing that gets him his freedom. She'll go down and retrieve him herself. That's a big thing. He does so, but is hallucinating the entire time getting down to it, and when he kind of recovers or comes out of it after he grabs the black box data, he hears Ava pleading with him to keep it safe from something. She seems in a frantic, sort of panicking, and then he hears the other voice from before pleading him to destroy the data. So he basically has a choice there to make sure the light is forgotten or whatever, retrieve the data, give it, because apparently it has some tech or some notes that could save humanity. He decides to grab it and keep it safe, even as his ship kind of begins to fall apart and like some Eldridge type of stuff happens. Like, I don't know if it's veins or what they're meant to be, kind of go over the button, which takes the photos, making it take photos constantly around him. It kind of grabs his arms, even causes him to lose an arm at one point. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. This is where the movie starts to just confuse me in a good way, I think, for the most part, but still. He does keep it safe and kind of fights off as his ship as the Iron Lung starts to fill with blood, from the blood ocean, and his body kind of starts to deteriorate. It looks like it gets kind of gruesome there for a second, but ultimately it ends with the creature that's been following him. You get a quick shot of it crushing his ship, but the movie ends with the black box reaching the surface of the blood ocean and seemingly being picked up, but it never confirms that. And that's the end. There's no after credit scene. There's no nothing. That's your pretty quick plot synopsis, as quick as I can make it. You get the general points. So you don't get everything. Definitely go watch it yourself for sure. But I want to get into the bad first because I want to end off on a good note with the good, or on a high note rather. The bad, I think the lighting could be better. I know it's meant to be claustrophobic and stuff, but there are just points. Maybe it's my theater. It could be my theater. I just couldn't see nothing. I feel like I was meant to see something. I just could not see. That was probably one of the bigger issues for me personally. Like I said, could be a theater thing. Maybe it's a movie thing. I don't know entirely. The audio at times, specifically towards the end, and I think it was on purpose, and I think in a game setting it works, where the voices were talking over each other and it was hard to understand any of them. I understand it's probably meant to be on purpose, but for a theater experience with no subtitles, so I can't understand what they're saying, what they're pleading him to do, why he made the choice he did, because I really can't tell, other than, it seems like the better choice for humanity, I suppose, which I guess that's good enough reasoning, but it would probably help there. The length, it's a little long. I feel like you could have shaved off 10-15 minutes at least. It's over 2 hours, I think 2 hours, 7 minutes, something along those lines, just over 2 hours. I feel like you could have definitely shaved off some time in the middle where there's a lot of just, and I think it kind of starts to happen towards the end. Maybe it's part of, trying to skip time or not, where he just kind of moves. Like, for example, there was a shot where he was at the controls and then he turns and then suddenly he's at the button pressing it already. Like they do some fun editing effects with that, maybe to shave off some time of him walking back and forth, which he does a lot in the movie. I definitely think they padded time a little bit. And by they, I guess I mean Mark, because I think he produced and directed and everything. And my last bad is the ending. Not because it's confusing or because it left me with questions, per se, because it's also going to be a positive, spoiler alert. I think just with how many questions, I guess, because it's not like they left it on a cliffhanger and that was it, or that they left me with a few questions, because a lot happens. For example, Ava comes down to save him, or is then pleading with him, and it seems like she's taken out, but we never get confirmation of that. So who knows? Maybe not. Maybe he was hallucinating that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's just meant to be, simple. She's gone, yada yada. But the creature, if it's the only one, I'm pretty sure was already hunting him and trying to keep him from coming to the surface. So unless it like teleported up there, unless it could teleport and got her and then came back down, I'm not entirely sure on that. Maybe I missed something, but I like to think that's left ambiguous. That's probably the one thing I'm like, my biggest issue is I don't know if there'll be a sequel, so I don't know if we're gonna answer that. My other bigger issues is, like I said, back to the audio. It's just I couldn't hear the two sides kind of making their cases. So hearing him making his choice, I kind of couldn't tell why, or I guess hear the full reasonings. And maybe that's just a me thing. I like hearing the reasonings for a choice. Maybe that's just me. Also, you don't get a lot about the blood, so like it looks like his body's deteriorating, like he's getting sick from it. And you get a little bit over like an audio log of one of the SM8 like crew also seemingly being sick from the blood or trying to drink it or something like that. But it's left very, very vague, and I don't remember that from the game. It's been a long time since I watched a video about the game or anything about the video game. But I think it's something that's been left to potentially be explored. I think a lot of my issues with the ending could be fixed with a sequel. I understand that. So I'm not going to hold up this review too much on it. You're welcome to yell at me in the comments, but if a sequel comes out, then that changes things. It doesn't affect my ranking that much of the movie. So either way, it's just something that came to mind. I remember leaving the theater with my buddy Ben. You might know him from the main channel. He appears in the videos. And we were both just very confused on what we watched and very confused on the ending and what was going on the entire time. We just didn't know what was going on. So whether that's a good or bad thing, up to you. Getting on to the good though, the atmosphere was incredible for a pretty much single set. I mean, not entirely single set, but for the most part, you're in the Iron Lung sort of ship. That's it. Very good. Like I said, the lighting had its issues, but there were a lot of times where it worked just right as well, which is why I wasn't sure if it was a theater or a movie issue. And there's a lot of tense, moments there, a lot of tense things going on. Markiplier's acting I have in both a good and bad, because I think it's just one of those things where he's not like some Hollywood A-lister or something like that. There's some moments where I think his type of acting works really well, and I think some moments where the tension is kind of not where it should be, just because he's not some A-list actor. But it's not. That's why it's a good and bad. I don't think it really affects the movie that much, as much as just thinking, hey, it's Markiplier, I'm watching. So I don't think it's really anything too crazy. The acting overall as well, though, there wasn't much more. It was just the two voices, Ava and the other voice, but they were good as well. There were a few other characters as well that made appearances. Apparently Jacksepticeye's in the movie. I don't know when that happened, so apparently he was probably one of the voices, I presume. I don't know. And lastly, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but I put the gore, just specifically like the very end, where his body's kind of deteriorating. You get all the blood and stuff. There's a couple other moments as well where there's some quote unquote gore, like horror effects. I kind of lumped those all in together. When he loses an arm, that was pretty good for the quick scene it was, and I think it was pretty good. The pacing, also, I didn't have an issue with the pacing per se. I just like overall, I'm okay with the slow burn. I do think you could cut out some of the padding. I don't think that's contradictory to say. There were him walking back and forth over and over and over and over. Him sitting or leaning against a corner or sitting in the chair, just sitting there for a long time. I think you could cut out some of the padding and bring it down to like an hour 45, hour 40, truth be told. But it's not the end of the world. And like I said, it was a good and bad. The ending was the bad, but overall it left me wanting more. And if we get an Iron Lung 2 or another movie in the universe that answers some of my questions, then I will absolutely remove that as a bad, I guess. That's why it's not really affecting my ranking at all, because it's also a good. I like having more reason to come back. At the same time, I want to know what happened to Ava for sure. I mean, she could just be dead, and that's fine, but she might not be. It was done in a way that it's ambiguous enough, and I definitely want to learn more about the universe. I think there's more games, but from the original creator of the Iron Lung game, that maybe are in the same universe as what I've heard. So I'd be interested in seeing those explored in a film or even a show or anything like that. I mean, I want to see more. It's just it kind of left this movie ending in a way that leaves me confused and asking questions, a lot of questions, because I just don't know if I'm going to get them answered, which is why it's a good and a bad. So if you want to check it out, I would recommend it, even if you have to wait till it comes to streaming, because theater prices are way too insane. But yeah, if you enjoyed this little quick, I don't even know if I call it a full movie review. I guess it was kind of formatted as one. It was just something different for this channel. More your quote unquote serious real talks coming soon. And if you want to see me play the Iron Lung game, I'm thinking about putting it up on the main channel. So check that out, JO3 Plays. Subscribe to this for more serious talks, I guess. And I will catch you in the next one.